welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about my February reading wrap up. I ended up reading 33 books in the month of February with an average of 3.6 stars, and I read like 12,081 pages, and it was a great reading month, especially since there were only 29 days in the month of February. I won't be talking about everything I read in the month of February because I already have a Contemporary-thon wrap up, which I will leave linked in the card up above. With that being said, here's everything else I read in the month of February. Let's get started. The first thing I read in the month of February is actually an ARC, and that was The Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I received an ARC of this through NetGalley, and it has since come out. This is about a girl who is exploring the story of her small town murder because she is convinced that who everybody thinks did it didn't actually do it, and she's doing it for her senior year project. And I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I loved the twists and turns it took, and it is definitely a wonderful thriller. Next, I read Kingdoms of Souls, which is about a girl who is born into a family of witch doctors, and she has yet to get her magic. However, something is going on, and you know, magic has a price, and if you're willing to pay it. And I ended up giving this book 4 stars. The only thing that really kept me from giving it a 5-star was the pacing towards the beginning. And I decided that that wasn't something I could get over because I felt like it was poorly paced towards the beginning. However, I flew through this book, and it was a debut that I had wanted to get to last year, and I really wish I had, and I'm so looking forward to continuing on with this story. Next, I read Eruption, the untold story about Mount St. Helens. And yes, it does talk about the eruption at Mount St. Helens. However, it talks an awful lot about the lumber industry, and the author is very heavy-handed in his feelings about the lumber industry. And I understand that the lumber industry had a toll to take in this instance. However, it felt a little off topic at times, and so I ended up giving this one 2 stars. Next, I read Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. The short and sweet of this is it's a Jane Eyre in space retelling. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I read her follow-up, which was The Persuasion in Space, The Stars We Tell, in January, and I've kind of found that I really like her execution. Some of the space stuff to them kind of seems a little far-fetched, but it's a fun ride. It's just the endings seem a little kind of rushed to me, and that's what keeps it from being a 5-star. Next, I'm going to jump around a bit, and I'm going to talk about 2 books together because it makes sense, and that is The Dark Prophecy and The Burning Maze, books 2 and 3 in the Trials of Apollo series. I don't want to talk about too much in this because this is the 3rd series in a set of series, and I don't want to say too many things and end up spoiling people because this is a really fun series. I will say my shtick about this, I know it's a lot of books to get to this series. This is my favorite Rick Riordan series to date. I'm still working through the Kane Chronicles, but this is my favorite Rick Riordan series to date. I gave both of these 4 stars. I think Burning Maze is my favorite Rick Riordan book to date. He's just getting better and better with his writing. He has found his groove. I love these books. Apollo is such a treat to be following. That's all I'm going to say about that. Next, I read an ARC of All the Stars and Teeth, which I received in exchange for an honest review through NetGalley. And this is a pirate mermaid ebook, and it has magic, and it is slow and calculated in the beginning. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I kind of was hoping it was a standalone, and I didn't see the slow build up to potentially being a duology. I'm excited to see how this duology ends. I wasn't expecting it to be a duology. I was expecting a standalone. That's on me. I gave it 4 stars. Highly enjoyed. Good time. I'm always down for pirates and mermaid books though, so that's who I am as a person. Next, I read Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed. And it's essentially about love and resistance, and it is equally a book about romance as it is a political book, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I am finding that as I'm getting older, I'm getting more picky with how I rate my contemporary. 4 stars is a completely perfect contemporary, and I might reread it. It's just taking me a lot more to give me a 5-star for contemporary. 4 stars is an amazing rating for contemporary. Next, I read Fledgling by Molly Harper. This is the 2nd book in the Sorcery and Society series, and I received an e-arc of this one in exchange for an honest review through NetGalley. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. This is not Molly Harper's most unique world, but it is the most magical of her worlds. It has plenty of magic school tropes and magic tropes, and it definitely feels like a middle book. And I know there's going to be a next book in this series. However, her writing always feels like coming home to me. So even though this isn't my favorite series by her, I'm definitely going to be continuing on, even though I only gave this book 3 stars. Next, I read Bitterroot Volume 1, which was a graphic novel. I was just trying to try something new, and I had heard about this one through the Blackathon because this was one of the artists that was a recommendation for one of the categories, and I wanted to check out a graphic novel by him, and I was overall pleasantly surprised. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I overall think this partly was due to the format that I was reading it in, because I was reading it on an ebook and I feel like this book was not suited for e-format. However, this was the only way I could find this book, and I don't think it was suited for it. I also wasn't the biggest fan of this art style, which art style is a very big contributor for me for graphic novel enjoyment, and so I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This one is about a group of monster hunters, and it was overall, I enjoyed the story, but I didn't enjoy the art style, if that makes sense. Next, I read Dewdrop, which is a very short children's book by Katie O'Neill. I got an e-arc of this one through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. This one comes out in April. However, as with every Katie O'Neill book, I basically threw out all my arc rules of trying to read it the month before or the month of and read it in February because that's who I am as a person. I loved Dewdrop. It is a very short story about friendship and loyalties, and it was cute. I loved the art. If you liked the cover, the art is just as beautiful inside. It's very short, it's like 40 pages. Next, I read A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy. This was another one of the debuts from 2019 that I hadn't gotten around to, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This is a sisters rivalry story and a fantasy setting, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I felt like the characters and the rivalry for the crown kind of kept me at arm's length, like the whole story. I really did enjoy the magic system in this one, however, so I am slightly conflicted on if I want to continue on in the series, but as for right now, I think I'm going to be dropping this one. But overall, I enjoyed the magic system. I just wasn't a big fan of the characters, and I'm more of a character-driven reader, if that makes sense. Next, I read Lady Killer Volume 1 and Volume 2 for the Adult Graphic Novel Club that I was a part of. The March one was supposed to be the last one, and they've closed like all library programs for quite some time, so I don't know if we're going to ever do the March one. But I ended up reading Lady Killer Volumes 1 and Volumes 2 for the February one. Lady Killer is about a basically woman in like the 1960s who is a killer for hire, and she's also a housewife, and kind of dueling those two lives. And it has a very beautiful art style, and I ended up giving both of these works 5 stars. The general consensus for the graphic novel club was that we loved the art style and we loved this work, and we really wish that there was more to it after Volume 2. So hopefully now that they're doing like a combined bind up of 1 and 2, that there might be a Volume 3 in the future. In a similar vein, just because I was in the mood, I ended up reading a book off of my TBR, which was Lady Killers, Deadly Women Throughout History, and this just talks about serial killers that are women throughout history and why men don't think women are serial killers, and how many notable female serial killers and how that is. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I felt like the writing style did not balance the author's remarks on the subject matter, and it was a hard line to like toe, and sometimes it felt like the author was like towing it too hard, and it was not a kind of subject matter to toe the line that hard on. Plus, I just felt like it was just a collection of essays, and it didn't feel like they were connected as well as they could have, if that makes a lot of sense. Next, let's talk about the things that I read with my partner in the month of February. We kind of have a little mini like book club that we're doing together. We listen to a lot of audiobooks together. A lot of times it's stuff I'm rereading with him, and other times it's stuff that we're reading brand new. It just kind of depends on what we have. This month, however, it was a reread. I really wanted to reread this, and I asked if he'd be interested in reading it with me. He said okay, and so we read A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. These are the first two books in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and this whole story basically kicks off because Feyre willingly, knowingly kills what she believes is a fairy disguised as a wolf, and the first book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I overall give both of these books 5 stars. While reading them with my partner, I acknowledge more problems that I probably did not read and notice when I first read them. However, I read both of these books now 3 times, and I love them with my whole heart. They got me out of a very rough spot when I first read them, and they are some of my favorite books of all time. Number 2 is one of my favorite books of all time, and I am so excited for my partner and I to finish book 3 and for him to get his conclusions on book 3 and to see where our buddy reading takes us next. But that's where we're at with our buddy reads. This is all we read together. It was a fun time. Next, I read Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. This one was described as murder mystery in a magic school, and I was trying to read this for a book club, and then I didn't finish it before the book club, so I didn't go to the book club, but I ended up finishing it, so might as well talk about it. I ended up feeling pretty bummed about this one because I felt like the story was pretty circular, and I wanted more because it was murder mystery set at a magic school. Next, I read The One, which is a sci-fi thriller by John Marrs, and I am trying to get more into sci-fi this year, but I know my taste in thrillers, so I figured this was a good idea to try to read. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It is basically about a technology where they can find you your perfect match. It follows a bunch of different people as they are finding their perfect match. And I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I didn't know what was keeping me from giving it the perfect 5 until I read The Passengers by John Marrs, which I also gave 4 stars. This book was about a bunch of people who are basically stuck in their automatic cars, which the world has basically started to adapt cars which no longer need people to drive them, and so cars are now driving themselves. And it does talk about The One, so I definitely recommend reading The One before reading The Passengers, even though I like The Passengers a little bit more. However, I feel like the stories are very jam-packed, and you end up, you know, feeling go, 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 and they're very action-packed. However, by the time the story is over, you feel like you haven't gotten a proper conclusion for everything because of how go, go, go everything was the entire time. So overall, I gave both of these 4 stars, but they were fond memories, and I still keep thinking about them. So I definitely do recommend them. Next, I read Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris, which was the first book in the Sookie Stackhouse series. I actually have a dedicated reading video for me reading that book because I started a new paranormal project where I read paranormal books that I missed during the time frame of like them being popular, despite me being a big paranormal reader. And I ended up giving this one 2 stars. I felt that it was very dry. I don't understand how it was popular. It was very formulaic. I gave it 2 stars. If you have any paranormal books that you think were popular that I might have missed, please leave them in the comments down below on that video or this video. I'm interested in seeing what books you think I should be reading for that. I'm open to suggestions. Next, I read Learning Curves, which I ended up giving 4 stars. It's about 2 women who are in a college class together, and they end up exchanging notes and end up like developing a relationship. There is a fat Puerto Rican lesbian main character and an asexual pan-romantic woman with ADHD as the love interest. And I felt so seen by bits of both of these characters. Like, it was a great time to have like multiple boxes of like who I am being represented in this book. It was a great time. I only gave this one 4 stars, like I said, because of my growing something extra needs to be seen for me to give a book 5 stars for it to be a contemporary. But this is a really good contemporary. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to continuing with this duology, finishing it out at some point this year. Next, I read Any Second, which I had received in exchange for an honest review through NetGalley a while ago. This is one of my backlist arcs I was trying to get to because I'm trying to get through all of my backlist arcs. And this one is about a boy who was kidnapped, and he is now set loose to try to detonate a bomb, and a girl with crippling anxiety, and they happened to me. Overall, the book talks about PTSD a lot. However, sometimes the characters just feel like caricatures of their traumas, and the story therefore can't breathe on its own properly, which made me end up giving this book a 3-star. And the very last book that I read in the month of February was Crier's War by Nina Valero. This was a buddy read for the book web Valentines, and my buddy was Sarah from the novel Serendipity, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. This is about a world where AI are now in charge, and it's about an AI who might have been built with compassion, which is a no-no, and a human who thinks that the AI have destroyed her family and wants revenge on the Capitol. And their potential friendship. I ended up enjoying the AI's perspective a lot more than the one of the human girl, which is what brought my enjoyment down for, because I was always looking forward to the AI's chapters more, because I felt like it developed the world more, and I felt like her chapters were more developed. Overall, I am looking forward to the sequel, even though I was able to predict some of the things that were going on in this story. I'm very glad that I ended up reading this one, and it was a sci-fi book that I enjoyed. So what about you? What did you read in the month of February? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like what you saw here today, be sure to like and subscribe. I normally post videos on Wednesdays. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.